Good afternoon. My name is Ted Madzima. I'm with Engage Agro. I'm the sales rep for Northern Alberta. I'm based out of Edmonton. I'm covering for our Southern Alberta rep, Dave Corey. Some of you guys may know him, may not. He's away on vacation. And today I'm going to be talking about plant growth regulators, what it is, and specifically to Manipulator, which is the PGR that Engage Agro carries. Now, have any of you ever used a plant growth regulator, Ethereal or Manipulator? You did?
Yeah, lots of years.
Sorry?
A long time ago.
Oh, a long time ago. Okay. So basically, what a plant growth regulator, plant growth regulators are. They're a group of chemicals that modify plant growth. So the plant growth regulators that are available here in Western Canada are specifically for cereals to help prevent lodging. So there's three out or hovering about. So I'll touch base on all three. So to start with is Manipulator, the one we carry. The active ingredient there is clomoquad chloride. And how Manipulator works, it is an anti-gibberellin. So basically when a plant grows, when your cereal plant grows, it releases a hormone called gibberellin that's responsible for stem elongation. So what Manipulator does, it inhibits or suppresses that hormone, so basically slowing down or suppressing stem elongation. Therefore, you get a shorter crop and thicker stem, and you reduce the risk of lodging. So that's how clomoquad or Manipulator works. It's a slow-acting product. So once it gets into the plant at the ideal stage of growth, stage 30 to 32, that's when stem elongation starts. It slowly suppresses or stops gibberellin from stem elongation. So there's some residual activity there. Another PGI which you may know is Ethereal. That's through Bayer. It is actually a hormone that's applied on the plant. So basically, I'm not an expert at this product, but basically what it is, it does the same thing, helps shortening the crop. But with Ethereal, you have a shorter window of application, and it's later in the growth stages. So around that growth stage 40, very tight window of application, and if you miss that window of application, you may damage your crop. With Manipulator clomoquad chloride, you've got a wide window of application. You can apply it as early as herbicide timing to as late as flag leaf with your fungicide timing. So it's a safer product to use. And then the third plant growth regulator that's out or will be coming out, I'm hearing 2019, is Trinaxapac through Syngenta. And as well, that is an anti-gibberellin, so it works just the same way, or kind of the same way as Manipulator. It is an anti-gibberellin, shortens the crops, thickens the stem. However, the mode of action is different. With Trinaxapac, it's fast acting, so as soon as you spray it, it stops the stem elongation, and there's no residual activity. So with Trinaxapac, again, it's fast and vigorous acting, which means you'll find Trinaxapac works as well in barley, which is the more aggressive crop to stop the gibberellin. So you find Trinaxapac is way better in barley than Manipulator. But in Europe, they tank mix the two, Trinaxapac and clomoquad chloride, so they get that fast, effective work, and then the residual activity from the clomoquad. What else? With clomoquad chloride, you also get the safety of tank mixing. So it's not registered, but we have done some tests, tank mixed with herbicide and with fungicide, and we've seen no issues there. So we'll be working on getting that stuff registered as well. I guess I'll pass it on to Mike, who's responsible for this plot here.
Sure, I'm Mike Gretzinger. I'm the research coordinator here at Farming Smarter. So I've got a couple data sheets here. I'll just kind of share what we did here and then share some of the data that we found in previous years working with Manipulator, and then some of the work that we're doing actually with Trinaxapac down on the other end by where the hail wheat plots are. So So the idea behind these plots was just to get some differences in the varieties, kind of as a dual kind of research demonstration purposes. So we knew we were going to show these at some point this year, but also wanted to kind of showcase just some of the differences that you see between varieties. So we've got CCAN and FP gave us seeds, so we've got a CWRS from both, a midge-tolerant CWRS, which hasn't been an issue out here this year, and then we have a Durham for each seed company. So we laid these out. The trials were seeded April 20th, so nice and early. We went with 400 seeds per meter squared, which is pretty high for a spring wheat. We threw down 40 pounds per acre actual P205, and then another 80 pounds per acre N with the seed. And we had went in ahead of time, broadcast another 40 or 50 ahead of time, and then we had about 100 pounds background. So the idea was we were really pushing the fertility. We were looking at 120 to 150% of the recommended, which ended up being close to 220 pounds per acre total N, so 450 actual product. We've obviously had a pretty dry spring here, so we've been running that pivot pretty steadily. We've almost put about 10 inches down already, and unfortunately we were hoping to see some lodging without the treatments, but we haven't seen that yet. I think sometimes with our small plot trials it's hard to get the lodging in the small plots, whereas when you have, you know, whole field together, you see the lodging a little better. But I think it's pretty interesting to see. We were walking through before, and I think we noticed that there's definitely some work being done by a lot of researchers on the variety specifics, and you can see there's some pretty big differences between the varieties. This is the AC Brandon. We've got a treated beside me, and then the untreated there, and you don't even have to really get down to look, but probably a good 3-4 centimeters shorter. Some of the other varieties look like they might be even more, maybe 5 or 10. This is a landmark. You can tell pretty easy the treated versus the untreated, and then same with the plentiful here, the treated and untreated. So I think that one probably, that's the plentiful Durham. I think that one stands out probably the most, and maybe it's just because it doesn't have the awns on there, kind of buffering things out, but it shows pretty obviously. So it's good to see. Like, I'm always excited when we do research plots, because when you get a visual difference, you don't just have to wait for the data to come in and see if the stats are different. It's pretty awesome when you get to come out and you see something, you go, well, I can almost guarantee you 100% when we run the stats there's going to be significant differences in the heights just by looking at the plots. So that's always exciting to me. Some of the work we did in the past with Engage and Manipulator, we had a trial where it was basically set up similar to this, the high end, the high water, high seeding rates. But what we did was we took a 0 one time and 1.5 times the nitrogen, and then we did like he was saying, we did it at the different application timing. So we had one treatment at that herbicide timing, 3 to 4 leaf, one at the recommended, or, you know, kind of ideal 30 to 32, and then one at the flag leaf. And when it came to heights, I know you can't all see this, but the biggest difference in the heights was between the check and the flag leaf. So that actually had the biggest difference on the height. Right close and next to it was the 30 to 31. And then there was a smaller difference when it was applied actually really early at the 3 to 4 leaf, which kind of seems counterintuitive. You think the earlier you could get it on, maybe you'd get the maximum difference in height, but that actually wasn't the case. And it was pretty significant. I mean, here on the flag leaf and 30 to 31 treatments, we were averaging about 85 centimeters. And then up on the checks, we were up above 100 centimeters, so a full, 15 centimeters difference in our average heights. And then looking at yield was pretty neat to see too. So for this same study, the check treatments yielded the lowest across the board at all the different nitrogen rates. And then we saw the 3 to 4 leaf kind of slightly better, the flag leaf slightly better, and that 30 to 31 was even again just a little bit better than that. Again, that's the red line here. So that was our best yielding treatment in the study. So the flag leaf had a little more benefit in the height, but the the 30 to 31 timing kind of had the best yield results. So it's kind of neat to see. It's a product. We'll see what happens. I think 2018 you said was
Yeah,
when they're hoping, pretty confident that we're going to see things go through for the state. So
pretty confident. As you may know, there is regulation issues with Manipulator. Grain companies will not take Manipulator treated wheat because there was no maximum residue limit established. So we've been working on that, and we're pretty confident for the 2018 growing season. We'll have the thumbs up, and we should be making an announcement in the fall. Did you guys have any questions?
So, were you saying that with Trinexapac, okay, now how was it? It had no residual?
Yes.
Right. And the plant, it had a very aggressive reduction in height in terms of stopping cell division or whatever.
Yeah.
In a case like that, because there's no residual, is the timing then that much more crucial? And
Yes.
the plant has to be really actively growing for it to work?
Exactly.
Okay.
So with Trinexapac, that's exactly it. And with all PGRs,
Yeah.
it has to be when the plant is not stressed, that gibberellin is out, the plant is elongating, the stem is
Right.
elongating.
Right.
So with Trinexapac, there is a tight window of application, not as tight as ethyl, but there is a tight window of application, and it's at that stem elongation.
Yeah.
So the disadvantage with that is, again, if a plant is stressed out and it's not growing at its best, then you may apply it then. You may apply it at that stem elongation, but it's stressed, so it's not elongating, and then the efficacy wears off. Right?
And on the converse, if it's really cool, it probably wouldn't work very well. either.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And I mean, I don't think you're pushing PGRs on every crop all the time anyways. I think, if the conditions aren't there to warrant it, I don't think, if the long-term forecast is hot and dry and you're not running irrigation, then you're probably not going to want to use a PGR anyways, I think. So
That's right. So I mean, if it's a dry year, I guess you guys irrigate here. Dry year, stressful year for the plant. Don't use plant growth regulators. It's for those guys that are going for those for the bushels, right? When you've put that much in, growing conditions are great. Your crop is likely to lodge because of that. Right? So it's an in-season decision.
any questions on PGRs or some of the research that we're doing? Yeah. Oh yeah.
General question. So the inhibitors, they don't affect flowering at all? Because GA should also be promoting flowering somewhat. So if you inhibit, it doesn't look like there's any difference. But
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It always comes up. But in our research trials, and we've worked with different research groups, there hasn't been any issues in terms of maturity. That's what you're asking, right?
Yeah.
Any days of maturity. I mean, there has been here and there, it's a day late or 2 days late, but nothing significant to actually say that.
Yeah, we're past the flowering window, but I'd expect if there was significant kind of differences, you'd probably pick it up. But
Yeah.
I really only see height differences behind me. I don't see any color change or any. And when we were out here, kind of looking at the heading, they almost all headed at the same time. So
Yeah.
one of the considerations with this trial, excuse me, was because we had so many different classes and varieties, was were we going to hit that 30 to 32 window? So we were out here kind of scouting quite a bit, and honestly, even the different varieties themselves were so close to the timing that it wasn't really a big concern, and we haven't seen much difference yet. And I'm relatively confident we're going to end up harvesting it all at the exact same time anyway. So yeah.
Now, is lodging an issue for any of you guys? Not
It's
really?
big. That shakes.
not in our conditions.
not till it happens, I guess.
Yeah.
The problem with something like lodging is it's kind of like you gotta kind of go, well, am I gonna have lodging, and then kind of preventatively go for it, right? You can't wait till it happens and then fix it.
And
So
then
it's
fix
one
it,
of
yeah.
those you really gotta know it's an issue on your farm. The group before, there was a few guys who was like, they were like, their lodging is always their big concern, and it's always an issue for them. So
That's right.
they're actively doing a few different kind of PGRs right now. So I don't know. Any other questions? What do we got doing for time? 2:30. 2:30. Well, probably changing over pretty quick. I think they're half hours, aren't they? Yeah. Well, this may be the first bit of the convoy. So yeah. So for yesterday and probably Friday and the next day, we've got the Dr. Brian Barris's study down on the other end there, and that's the Trinexapac study on winter wheat, and they've got 3 different varieties of winter wheat there. I think there's a fall rye in there too, and they've got a couple different rates of the Trinexapac, and pulling stems out and chopping the stems in half and then measuring with digital calipers all the outside diameters and inside diameters to kind of prove the stem thickening and stuff like that, and be doing height. So it's a pretty big task for the summer students, some of those projects. I mean, it's not like coming out here and just kind of walking through and doing some ratings. They're going to spend a week solid in some of these plots doing measurements. So quite a bit goes into it, and hopefully we'll see some of those results in the next couple of years, because I think we're on the final year of that project. You said Trinexapac was being registered in 2019.
Well, that's what I've heard. Yeah.
It'd be cool to see what happens.
What happens then? Yeah.